30-year-old exotic dancer Kelly Peters and her husband of 6 years, Christopher, are going through a divorce. They have come before Judge Judy to settle their disputes over a car, a cat, a dog, and their intimate home video.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Peters versus Peters. Judge, the parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Thank you. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, you've been married for 6 years and you're in the process of divorcing. According to your papers, I think that you've both agreed that your marriage is going to be over, despite the fact that I get some sense in these papers that you still care about each other, that your lives are going in different directions. And you come before me today because there is certain property that you have agreed to permit me to resolve with regard to the issue of ownership. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once those issues of property are resolved, then the divorce process will be a relatively easy one. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Are you nervous?
A little.
Okay. Mrs. Peters, according to your complaint, there are 3 items at issue.
Right.
There is a car.
Right, the car.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 1993 Geostorm GSI. And then the issue of my cat and my dog, he gave my cat away. And we had decided that I would...
So there's a dog?
Yes.
Because the cat's gone?
Yes. And then also we have some videos that we...
Some personal videos that he has that you would like back?
Well, I
would like
to...
it destroyed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with the car, because my sense is that the car is, in the area of emotions, the easiest thing to resolve.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the car is in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
But she pays for it.
That is correct.
How did that come about?
Because when Chris and I had moved to California together, for a while he wasn't working, and I had paid some of his car payments, just 2 of them, so that I was afraid he was going to leave me if he couldn't pay his bills and I go back to Colorado, and I didn't want him to go back, so I paid that. And then I got sick afterwards, and I got really behind on my bills, so my car got repossessed, so I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I don't believe you paid my car payments.
Yes, I did.
Well, it's really not particularly relevant, because what we're here for is for resolution, not to revisit bad moments.
So anyway,
Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
So you had bad credit.
Yes.
But you needed a car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you helped her.
Yes, ma'am. I told her, I says, now if I sign for this car, you have to promise me that you're going to make your payments on time and you're not going to make this a liability to me.
So you said, I'll sign for it, but promise that you'll make the payments faithfully and on time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't mind if I help you out a little bit?
No, not a bit.
Because I got other cases to do today.
Thank you.
Okay. How much more time has to go on this car loan?
About a year and a half.
And how long was the car loan? 5 years?
Yes.
And you would agree, Mr. Peters, that she has made, even though some of the payments were late, she's made all the payments?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So there really isn't much of an issue about that. When you separated, you took the car.
Yes.
So
well, the issue is the collection agents keep coming to me wanting those payments because they're always late.
They are not, I'm sorry. Sorry, Your Honor, but they're not always late.
Well, I got just this notice right here that she's behind 2 payments.
I'm not behind 2 payments.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Peters. How would you like to resolve this fairly with regard to the car? Let me see what your suggestion is.
Well, I would like to be able to sign it over in her name, but that's impossible because they won't do it because of her credit. So I think that she should at least reimburse me maybe half of what the car is worth, and that way...
How's that going to help you?
Well, my car is about ready to go.
How do you think it would be reasonable to resolve this issue? Because what you're really asking is you're asking him to sign the title of the car over to you, and yet he has the liability.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made all the payments up to now. I'm not going to stop making the payments.
Well, I know that because you're driving the car. But if you do stop making the payments, that means they're going to come after him or repossess the car.
I would never stop making the payments.
Mm-hmm.
I've already paid over $12,000 on that car, Your Honor. I'm not going to stop making the payments. Plus, I paid his car insurance until this year so that he could have car insurance because he didn't want to have car insurance.
That's not true. You left me with $1,500 worth of bills, and
Chris, that is so not true.
and I paid the last 2 months of your insurance.
Okay. How much is this car worth now, approximately?
$7,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have the last statement that you received on the car?
I just have one of the bill that's owed right here.
Can I see it, please? Well, it says this payment, you are delinquent by 1 month.
Actually, that will be true on the 26th. But I'm going to make the payment before the 26th.
Okay. Give me a minute. You still owe a lot of money on this car.
About $6,200, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably paid about $2,000 in overcharges by now.
No, I have not, Chris.
Well, she's paid for a long time. I mean, you have had the car for, if she's had the car for 4 years, if she's had the car for 4 years.
But every time she's late a payment, Your
I
Honor,
am not every time late a payment, Chris.
Just don't fight with each other. You don't have
Sorry.
to fight with each other anymore. You're getting a divorce. The fighting is over.
Later on Judge Judy.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
You want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
And
sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old Chris Peters is divorcing his wife Kelly because she won't give up her exotic dancing career. They have asked Judge Judy to arbitrate their dispute over their pets, their car, and their intimate home video.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
I am going to suggest to you that for the purposes of liability and everything else, that you sign this car over to her so that the car is in her name. You, of course, always have the recourse of suing her in a small claims arena. You don't have to go through lawyers or anything else. You know she doesn't have money now.
Yes, ma'am.
My alternatives are to force her to sell the car, satisfy your loan, and then she'd have $800 left. Because if the car is worth $7,000 and there's $6,200 left to pay on the loan, that would put her in a position of not being able to be employed, really, because she wouldn't have a way of getting back and forth to work. I assume you drive to work.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've been married for 6 years. Are you employed on a regular basis?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You have a weekly paycheck?
The small one.
Okay. You are not, I assume, Ms. Peters, in your divorce action seeking support from him. Is that correct?
Of course not.
Because you're working. So I want you to look at the long-term picture, Mr. Peters. This car is your insurance. Your insurance that when this whole divorce action is finalized, your wife is not going to ask for support from you because she's now working because she didn't have a car to get to work. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what it really means is for the next year while this car loan is being paid off, you'll have to sweat it a little bit to make sure, that she's going to make the car payments. You also can feel confident that after all the money she's paid for the car, it is unlikely that she's going to allow the car to be repossessed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make your payments, the first thing they do is come and get the car. So, Mr. Peters, you're going to sign the car over to her. That way, when your divorce is over, everything's going to be finished. Is that a good idea?
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, good. So, that was the unemotional part of this dispute. Now, let's get to the dog. The dog's name is Breezy.
Yes.
Breezy is, according to your papers, a boxer.
Yep.
Is that a
Yes.
picture of Breezy?
No, this is a picture of my cat that he gave away without my permission.
Okay.
We'll get to the cat.
Yes,
Okay.
we will.
That's a picture of Breezy.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, according to your papers, Miss Peters, you had a cat and a dog.
Yes.
You had Mac, the cat.
Yes.
Breezy, the dog.
Right.
And why don't you tell me about the arrangement with the cat and the dog when you separated in November?
Okay. We had agreed that I would take the cat, Mac, and I would let him keep Breezy, even though I didn't really want to let him keep Breezy because she's my dog too, and I love her, and I'm the one that took care of her, paid for her food most of the time, took her to the vet, all that stuff.
You agreed that you would keep the cat and he would keep the dog.
Right, and because I can't have the cat where I'm living right now, he had promised that he would keep Mackie for me until I could get my own place. And I thought that instead of taking Mac at the time and having him stay at a friend's house or having my sister keep him, it would be less traumatic for Mac if he stayed in his own house with his own yard until I could come get him. And he looked me in the eye and promised me that he would take good care of Mac.
The same way she looked me in the eye and promised me she'd make all her payments on time.
Oh,
Mr.
God.
Peters.
I did promise and looked her in the eyes about the cat, and then I'd keep it for her. But sometimes when you get...
So what happened with the cat?
The cat kept urinating all over the house and on my clothes and stuff, and I finally...
Coming up on Judge Judy.
It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Peters are in the middle of a divorce, but they have come before Judge Judy to settle custody of their pets, a car, and a personal home video.
Why didn't you call your wife and say, listen, I'm giving away the cat. You want the cat, come and get it?
Because I knew that the cat needed a home, a good home, and Kelly wasn't prepared. She just left the cat. If she was so concerned about Breezy and the cat, then she should have done something before she left.
Okay.
She shouldn't have
Mr.
just left
Peters.
it up to me.
Mr. Peters, you didn't answer my question.
Why didn't I
Why
call
didn't
Kelly?
you, at that moment,
Because I was
pick up
pissed
the...
off.
Right. That's honest. There you go. Okay.
And
That's
I was
honest.
using, and I was thinking, I was thinking that, you know, it was her fault and stuff, and I was sorry. After I gave the cat away, I tried to get the cat back because I realized how much it really meant to Kelly, you know. But at the time of the anger of the moment,
Okay.
I hated the cat.
That's
so.
just a second. That's honest, Mr. Peters. Shh. That's honest.
Okay.
Well, so now, Mrs. Peters, your husband acknowledges that he got rid of the cat because the cat was soiling all over the house.
But, Your Honor, it's because he didn't clean out his box.
Whatever, for whatever reason. He didn't like the cat. Maybe he looked at the cat as an extension of you. Is that a possibility?
Maybe.
He acknowledges that he was wrong. That's a step. That's not a reason for me to say that you're entitled to the dog.
And I'm sorry I gave away the cat.
Good. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I am sorry.
Because, you know, it's like he did the dog has been with him. The dog has always been with him for the last 9 months. The dog has been with him, living in a place where the dog is accustomed to living. There's a certain routine. So if I were to say, well, you gave away the cat, now I'm going to give her the dog, who I'm really punishing is this dog who had dog didn't have anything to do with getting rid of the cat. So that wouldn't be fair, would it? Mrs.
Well,
Peters, would
the
that
dog
be
lives-
fair to the dog?
No, probably
Right.
not.
You're right. It would not be fair to the dog. It's like saying if you have a child and there's a divorce, and if one parent acted badly about something, you punish that parent by saying, well, I'm going to limit your visitation with the child. Because that's punishing the child. It's not only punishing the party, but it's punishing the child for something that the child had no control over. This dog is used to living in a particular place. How old is the dog?
3 years.
So for 3 years, lived in the same place, same home, it's got a yard, whatever. Does it?
Yeah, it's got
Got
a
a
big
yard, has a routine.
She's real happy too, Your Honor.
And there's really no reason for me to uproot the dog because he made a mistake.
Well,
Yes, I did.
He made a mistake. He apologized for it. It was not the right thing to do. So the dog stays with him.
Chris, thank you, Your Honor.
Now, the last thing that we're going to address is this video. Ms. Peters, it's your position that this was a rather intimate video that you and your husband took as husband and wife for fun, for whatever. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
Your position is you want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I have a couple of questions to ask you, sir.
Okay.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am, I would never show it to anyone else.
Okay, so you want to keep this for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
And-
sick. Very sick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not as nasty or whatever you want to think. I mean,
Your
it
Honor,
was
it's very
too-
graphic.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Peters, an exotic dancer, and her husband Chris Peters are divorcing. Judge Judy is deciding what happens to their intimate home video.
There is no reason that I can think of for divorced people to keep pictures, videos, photos of each other that the other party might find embarrassing.
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about it. It was just, you know, I mean, it's like, I love Callie. I'm always going to love her. And it's just, I mean, it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it was
Honor, it's very
too...
graphic.
Just a second. I don't want to hear about it. I thought I was being very...
Sorry.
I thought I was being very circumspect about it. I said that there was an intimate thing done with...
I have
between
many
us.
other videos of her, too. I mean, that's not in the same category,
This
but...
is what she wants. This is the one that offends you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bell, I'm going to say this to you one more time, sir, and listen to me very carefully. When you divorce, if you're lucky, you're left with certain pleasant memories that you try not to forget. You know, you had good times with your wife. It just so happens that in your case, after 6 years, your lives have taken a different path. She doesn't want to have to worry about these photographs, these videos, falling into anybody else's hands. God forbid you're out in a car and your car is in a wreck and you are there comatose and your mother goes through your things and she says, I wonder if these are pictures of Chris when he was out skiing. And your mother plays this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir? You know, it's one of the reasons why people are always supposed to wear clean underwear all the time and keep their houses neat. You never can tell what's going to happen. There are all kinds of situations that I can conceive of where even if you don't intend something to happen, this can fall into the wrong hands. Someone can burglarize your house. That's a possibility. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think they'd find the tape.
They're certainly not going to find it, sir, because there isn't going to be a tape.
So there's nothing I can say because...
There is
I mean,
absolutely nothing, sir, that you can say to me that would satisfy me that there is any logical, rational basis for you maintaining anything that might prove embarrassing to her. And if she had something that might prove embarrassing to you, I can guarantee you, sir, it would be in my possession if it was the subject of this litigation, and it would be destroyed.
Do you?
No, of course I don't.
Good. Officer Byrd, you and I are going to take care of this video in the back. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Peters, listen to me. It's resolved. This is going to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed within the next 5 minutes. Officer Byrd and I are going to have fun. We're going to create a little bonfire in my chambers. Now, then you don't have to worry about it anymore, Mrs. Peters. So let us see how we resolve this case. The Geo
Yes, ma'am.
is going to be registered in your name. The dog, Breezy, sir, is yours.
Thank you.
The video is mine. This case is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And on the next Judge...
Sure, step forward, please.
30-year-old optometrist Svetlana Fisher is suing her stepmother, Raisa Fisher, for money left in her late father's estate. Raisa is countersuing for his funeral expenses.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 35 on the calendar in the matter of Fisher versus Fisher. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
It's always sad when families are ripped apart when somebody dies. Miss Fisher, according to your complaint, the defendant, who is your father's second wife,
Correct.
took money from the estate and really appropriated it. And her defense is, I assume, based upon your answer, well, she did do that, but you didn't pay for any part of your dad's funeral. Is that what this case is about?
Yes.
How old was your dad when he died?
He was 57 years old.
Was it a sudden?
Almost
58?
59.
Was his death sudden?
It was a very sudden death after an unsuccessful heart surgery last August.
And your dad, I assume, did not have a will.
He did not have a will, no.
Mrs. Fisher, how long had you been married to Mr. Fisher before he died?
We were married legally almost 3 years, but we lived longer. We lived together almost 4.5 years.
But you only were married for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I assume, Miss Fisher, that your father did not have a will.
That's correct. And my stepmother, I went to the bank the next day after my dad died, and the people at the bank told me, I'm so sorry about your father. I said, how do you know? They said, well, your stepmother was here closing all of the accounts. That was the next day after he died, before even he was buried. So she had closed all of their joint account the next day.
Oh, I say there was certain money that was in joint accounts.
That's correct.
That's not the basis of your lawsuit.
That's correct.
What is the basis of your lawsuit, Mrs.
My
Fisher?
father had an account way before they were married in a stock account. It was his sole account in his sole name.
It's not true.
For when he died, there was $19,090.84. We had
So
started.
let's round it out to $20,000.
Okay.
There was $20,000 in this stock account that you say was in your dad's name alone.
That's correct. And I have papers here to
Can
show.
I see what you have, please?
Yes, this shows that the papers were in his name alone. This shows how much money and that it went to Raisa's account when she closed it. And here's a letter with her stating to transfer all of the funds to now her new account from that account. We had started with
On what date did your father pass away?
August 6, 96.
Well, this withdrawal was made on October 9th.
That's correct.
Did you withdraw all of this money, this $19,090 from the stock account?
No, I didn't withdraw him because
Did you transfer it to a different account?
it took a long time while they processed the claim and they gave me the money. It wasn't like that. It wasn't anything like it.
Well, if your husband died without a will, and this account was in his name,
Yeah, but the stocks he bought and sold together being married to me, they were purchased and sold during the marriage, so it's a community property.
who told you that?
Who told me that?
Yeah.
Well, my lawyer told me that, and I know it because we were...
That's not true.
He was buying
No.
and selling.
No, that's not true. You have a statement of the net worth of the account prior to their marriage 3 years ago? What was the...
No, she doesn't have that.
Well, do
That's
you?
not true.
Do
Yes,
you?
I do.
Well, how much was in the account 3 years ago?
Nothing. When I married him, he lived in a very little apartment. Everything was from the garage sale. That's how
Mrs.
his
Fisher,
first
Mrs. Fisher.
wife left him.
Mrs. Fisher,
He
don't
didn't have anything.
try to deflect my attention.
No, I don't.
He had a stock fund.
Right.
Now, if he only had $1,000 in that stock fund that was in his name alone at the time you married, and during the course of your marriage, you both contributed to the stock fund, and it was built up to $20,000, I may agree
yes,
with
we
you.
did contribute it together.
I might, if you could, did you have things in both your names?
In the
In
stock?
joint names? No, not the stock. You had things in both your names. Is that correct?
Of course. Everything we have in both names.
Not this. This was only in his name.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Well,
the
if this is
count, but
only in
doesn't
his name-
matter.
What?
Doesn't matter whose name it is. because I was married to him. It's a community.
No, no.
We were buying and selling it together. He was unemployed most of the time.
Mrs. Fisher, you just told me in your answer, and I want you to make sure that you tell me the truth, madam, because I'm like a truth machine. You told me that you're struggling, that you don't make a lot of money, and that it was very, very hard for you to pay for his funeral because you don't make any money, right? That's what you told me. So how could you say
That's
that you
right.
contributed to stocks?
Yes, I did, because I had money in my account before I was married. I had money. I had an IRA account.
Show me withdrawals that you gave, and show me where you made withdrawals to put in to purchase stocks.
Yes, I will.
Okay, good.
Judge, I want to
Just a
say,
second. I want to see that. That's very important. I want to see the money that you took out of your accounts and trace that money to giving it to your husband to purchase stocks.
I have that I contributed to IRA, which
I'm not
is...
interested in your IRA. I'm not interested in the IRA. I'm interested, madam, in his stock account.
Yeah,
because
I have.
clearly...
I have that I took from my account. They took it from me. I don't know.
Well, that
where
they took it from you. We'll wait till you get it.
Yeah.
Bird, we'll take
And
a
here,
recess,
and
get
here,
it.
by the way, the stocks, that they all were bought, that one that I sold, they all were bought in 1996.
So?
Bought and sold when we
So?
were married.
Mrs. Fisher, I know you've got it in your head that if your husband bought and sold securities while you were married, that's community property.
Right.
No! Wrong. Wrong. I'm going to tell you why. Let's say in 1940, her father bought Pepsi-Cola at $2 a share. And he decided to sell his Pepsi-Cola in 1996 when it's worth, I don't know, $200 a share. Are you suggesting to me that that becomes community property because it's sold when you're married?
No.
Now, are you suggesting to me that if he sold Pepsi-Cola and he bought IBM with the proceeds because he bought it and sold it while you were married, that the IBM becomes yours? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything.
No, no, no. I'm trying to follow your logic. You say
The
because he
logic
bought and sold these stocks while you were married,
That's right.
that they're yours.
Yes.
Well, and so I asked you a simple question. Assuming that your husband bought Pepsi-Cola in 1940 and sold it in 1996 and bought IBM with the profit that he made.
No, but
Yep,
these
yep.
stocks...
You believe that stock in IBM would be community property and therefore be yours.
I don't know. You know better.
Right, I know better. Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
she's bitter and angry because my mother was the one who took my dad to the hospital when he died.
It was my card.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stepdaughter Svetlana Fisher claims stepmother Raisa Fisher kept all the money from her late father's estate. Raisa says it was left to her alone.
Did you ever sign a document that said that you were his sole heir and beneficiary?
Pardon?
Did you ever sign a document indicating that you were his sole heir and beneficiary?
No, but I was giving the letter that I was solely responsible for all his financial matters by Svetlana, that I am his widow, responsible for everything.
We're talking apples and oranges, madam. She says that you signed the document with the stock account that she wants to give me right now. Is that the document?
Under penalty of perjury.
Just a second. Show it to her, please, and see if that's her signature. That you signed this document saying that you were his sole heir. Is that your signature?
Yes, on that account,
Good.
yes.
Can I see it?
That's the only account
No,
that
there
I'm
are two
suing for.
accounts.
This is the only
That
account
she
that I'm
received
suing
her
her.
sister and her receipt.
I have not received anything.
That's
not
right,
a
because
penny.
she wasn't even a beneficiary on his IRA account. I don't think she deserved
Let's-
anything.
Just a second. She says that she's not interested in anything else and she has not gotten any other money.
And she's not...
Just a second. That's what she said. So this is the only thing. This says you signed it. No other person has a right to the decedent's interest in the above property.
Yeah, because I believe it's my money, exactly my money.
Do you know what the law is in the state of California with regard to someone who dies without a will?
But that's not...
Do you know what the law is in the state of California with regard to someone who dies without a will, Mrs. Fisher? How their property is distributed if they have children. Mrs. Fisher, you're not a...
Yeah, but these children, you can ask my sister if anybody saw her ever at his house. She didn't want to know. She has no relationship. She's 31 years old. She never showed her face. When he was on a deathbed, she left for the wedding and left. I begged her, please don't leave. She said, we'll see about it. And she went to Utah for her boyfriend, sister wedding. And he was dying there. And when she came back, she was angry with me. Why didn't you disconnect him? Why you let him suffer like that? She started hating me for that.
Mrs. Fisher, 10 minutes ago, you tried to deflect my attention from something. My court officer has known me for 15, 20 years. He will tell you that I have a mind like a vice. The question I asked you was, in the state of California, you know that when you die without a will, your property is divided if you have a wife, between your wife and your children, and if you don't have a wife, and if you just have children, then it's just the children, and if you just have grandchildren, then it's the grandchildren. So you knew that she was entitled to 1/3.
No, I didn't. My lawyer told me that
Don't tell me what your lawyer told you.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
Don't tell me what your lawyer told you. You believe that because these stocks were bought and sold during the course of the time that you lived together, that's community property.
Though. He had 2 accounts, which they collected the same almost amount that I collected.
Just a second. She didn't collect anything.
Because her father didn't count her in, even on IRA. Ask why she's not on it. Her name wasn't even there.
That was a different sister. Her other sister collected because that property was left. Her sister was the beneficiary.
She was the younger beneficiary for anything.
She was the baby.
Mrs. Fisher, I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions, please, and then I'm going to finish this case. When you married your husband 3 years ago...
That's right.
How much money did you have in the bank?
Who? Me?
You!
It's your business.
Excuse me?
I have $20,000 on my own.
Show me.
Show?
Yeah.
Why
Show
should
me.
I?
You had $20,000 of your own.
Yes. I have an IRA that I put my both children on it, but he didn't because the way they were behaving, they weren't close at all.
Mrs. Fisher, you had $20,000 when you married him.
Yes.
In your own IRAs, is that right?
On my IRA, right.
You still have your IRA?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Still have your IRA. And how much did you collect from your husband's estate up until today's date?
How much I collected?
Yes. How much money?
$19,000. $19,000.
Just on the single.
And I spent $9,000 for the funeral.
Just a second. $19,000.
Right.
That's all you collected was $19,000? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That is only on his own account with his own name. That does not contribute to the car that he had fully paid and all their joint accounts.
I'm talking about everything. The joint accounts, Mrs. Fisher, not only this $19,000.
We only have one checking account, and that's it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay, now you can go shopping for the next husband to rob.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Raisa Fisher says her late husband did not want his daughter to benefit from the money he left behind. Svetlana Fisher says her father left her at least part of the money.
How much money was there, Miss Fisher, in the joint accounts? Do you
don't know. I have no idea. I never inquired.
It's what?
How much we had? Like 5? I don't remember now. Maybe 3,000, maybe 5,000. I don't remember now.
Well, this is money that you owe her. There was $19,000. How many sisters do you have?
My sister had a lawsuit that she was in court last month, and she won. And Raisa is appealing that, but she won because it was, again, 1/3, same situation. I believe that she is countersuing me for any funeral expenses because she's bitter and angry because my mother was the one who took my dad to the hospital when he died, not her.
It was my card. It was my card. I
Card,
don't like,
insurance
Judge
card.
Judy, can I tell you
And she's just
something?
bitter
Wait.
and angry because
no, I'm
my
not
father
bitter. I
had
don't mind
friendly
to pay.
relationship.
Let me say something,
Order.
okay? My husband didn't keep his job. He was a very good engineer, but mostly he was doing stocks. That was like his job. And he was in and out of job, never had insurance. After extensive surgery 2 years ago, I continued working for a minimum wage almost. I'm working for my company, okay? And sustaining that insurance that they didn't cost him, instead of being grateful to me, my insurance paid over $300,000 for his illness, for her father's illness. And I was there day and night, in and out of the emergency room because I had a nervous breakdown. So that's how close I was to my husband, how I loved him, and I was there for him. But she wasn't. She went to the wedding. She went to the wedding when he was dying. I don't think she does not deserve any money. Nothing. None.
Well, I'm telling you right now, you are mistaken. You are mistaken.
I don't know. And plus,
You don't know. I'm telling you.
she's an optometrist. She drives Lexus. She lives south of Boulevard. Look at me. I live in a rundown apartment in Reseda. And I am poor. I am the one poor.
Listen to
She's
me.
rich.
Listen to me.
They both
Mrs.
drive
Fisher,
Lexuses.
I want you to listen to me, madam.
both
Listen
drive-
to me
Okay.
very carefully,
Yeah.
right? You were not married to your husband for 30 years.
Doesn't matter.
Yup, listen to me.
I was
No,
close to
there's
him.
a certain equity, madam. I want to explain. There's a certain equity. If you were married to this man for 30 years, I would have a lot more sympathy in your position when you say, look, I need the money. I'm poor. I understand that he had children from a prior relationship, but we cared for each other. We had a life together for 30 years. You were married for 3 years before he died.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I'm not a greedy person. Absolutely not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. A stepmother and daughter at war over her father's estate. Svetlana and Raisa Fisher are fighting over the money left behind.
Read
You
this
had
letter,
plenty of
please.
money.
Can
Listen
you
to
read
me,
this
Mrs.
letter,
Fisher.
please?
You have a countersuit.
Svetlana says that she has no relevance to
You
his...
have a countersuit for the funeral expenses. You are not. They are not responsible for the funeral expenses.
Why am I then responsible?
No,
I'm
you're
only
not.
3 years married.
I want to explain something to you. If you had to go into your own money to pay for your husband's funeral expenses, I would, as a matter of equity, see to it that they had to contribute to that. You just told me a moment ago you are whole. You came into this marriage 3 years ago with $20,000 in your IRA. You still have $20,000 in your IRA.
No, I have
in
more
addition,
than that.
well, now you have more, but
have
certainly you didn't
20,000.
go into your own personal...
22,000.
Hey,
No.
I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
You didn't go into your own personal money to pay for your husband of 3 years for his funeral. He left more than sufficient amount of money to pay for his funeral.
Yeah, but I'm not the one suing. They made my life hell. They dragged me to courts in and out, both of them. Ask when his daughter visited her father, or ask or give him something for the Father's Day last year. What did they give him? They didn't give him
Please, listen to
anything.
me. Listen to me. Your lawsuit seeks $5,000. You are owed under this...
Thank you.
Under the account that should have been distributed under the laws of intestacy in this and most other jurisdictions. You are owed in at minimum $6,000.
Exactly.
And therefore, I am awarding you $5,000.
Thank you.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, $5,000. The countersuit for the funeral expenses is dismissed. The deceased paid for his own funeral expenses out of his own money. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you very much.
Back door to your
She
right.
doesn't deserve a penny.
And on the next Judge Judy.
We had a very close
No
relationship.
relationship.
Never saw her face in his house.
That's correct, because she wouldn't allow us to come to the house. My dad would come to our house. They would never
Our own
allow us.
children would steal money from our father's wallet, okay? And he told us that he only had two children, us, and not a drug addict child.
You never show your face anywhere.
Thank you.
You greedy people.
I am greedy.
Yeah.
You don't...
Versus Robinson Hall. Step forward, please.
Renee Nickerson, a Los Angeles beautician, is suing Rena Robinson and Rena's mother, Valina Hall, over injuries she says she received during a violent fight over a lost screw to a video game.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 38 on the calendar in the matter of Nickerson versus Robinson Hall. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Nickerson, you are suing the defendants for assault,
Yes.
for injury to your arm, to your finger.
And my foot. I have a comminuted fracture on my foot.
All right. Well, why don't you tell me first, before we get to your injuries, I gather that the defendant's son was playing at your house with some of your children.
Yeah. Well,
Is that right?
yeah.
And there was a toy that was broken by her son.
A little toy.
What kind of toy was it?
It's a little Nintendo cartridge. I went to the defendants to ask them, did they have a screw that I can put into my, actually it wasn't my son's game, it was my nephew's game. To put, could they help me put it back together?
Let me stop. After the toy was broken, according to your complaint, you went to the defendant's house.
I went there.
And you said, do you have a screw that you can fix the game with because your son broke the game?
Before I went there, I sent the
Put your hand
boys,
down, please.
my nephew and my son over there. And they called me and asked me why did I send the kids over there. They didn't understand what they were talking about. You know, they didn't understand. Tell me what you're talking about. I said, I'll be over there in a minute. But I didn't know that, well, by the time I got there, I didn't know I was going to have to fight for my life to get out.
Well, what happened when you got there?
Well, when I got there, I was trying to explain to Renee.
Who's Renee? That's you.
Rena.
Rena.
She's Renee.
Well, they told me her name was Renee. And anyway, I was trying to explain to her about this screw. And she kept yelling, and I told her, I said, okay, forget about it. You obviously want to fight. So I was trying to get out. And before I knew it, they had jumped on me.
Who's
And,
they?
She, her mom, and her brother.
You're the mother.
Yes, I am.
I didn't find it funny. I've been in a cast for about 2 months, and I'm still being treated.
And you don't know why this happened?
Well, I have a pretty good idea.
Well, let me hear your idea, because right now I really don't understand why you have injuries.
We have yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't
understand it either. So tell me why you think this happened.
We had a mutual friend, and he was pretty nice to me. He did a lot of things for me. I think Val may have been in love with him. I don't know. He claimed he was in love with me, but I didn't share those same feelings.
So you think that this was all over a man?
That's what I think. Well, the man had died. And the man died. I didn't go to his funeral. And a couple of days after that is when this setup, I believe it was a setup. This is what happened, because I can't understand why they would get that mad over a little Nintendo game, a screw. I have a lot of kids over my house all the time. Val and I have had problems with the kids before, but we've always been able to talk about it.
That's you?
We've always been able to talk about whatever problems we ever had. We've always been able to talk about it. But this particular time, there was no talking.
Okay. Rena?
Yes.
Let's hear your version of this, please.
Okay. Sunday is when I heard that, well, my son, he was at our house playing Sunday for a couple of hours just before we was going to start our day. And I had told her, you know, she was fixing the kids' lunch and stuff. I told her, don't worry about mine, because I would be picking him up about 3, because we had movie engagements and planned for that day. But after I dropped him off back after Sunday and everything like that, never mentioned about the screw. Even after I picked him up, because I still don't know when the screw got lost and everything. So when I dropped him off at his father's, I went off with a friend, and we were gone for like 2 days out of town. And when I came back that Tuesday, which was the 22nd, is when I heard about the screw. She called the house saying that I said, why did you send the children? She said, because I figured you could help them. And I'm like, help them with what? A screw. What kind of screw? A screw to a game. I'm asking, is this game still broken, or is it broken? Does it work? I haven't checked that. She's assuming that she's talking to my mother. I'm letting her know you are talking to me while she's being loud and ruly. I will be there. When she got there, she bammed on the door like she was a detective, and I asked her why. She said, because I wanted to make sure you heard me. Come on in. She's still going on about the screw. She never said anything about the game. She always focused on a screw. I got out a screw bucket where I keep little tools and stuff. Let's get us one. I offered her to sit down. She sat down for a half a second and jumped back up, and when she did that, not knowing her, because I can prove that I've only been here, just got in town. I don't know her. She's my mother's company. Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, and so when she jumped up in my face, not knowing what she had done or what she'd been doing over her house before or why she was calling, and because she still had hostility and rage in her voice, in her and everything, and all I did was defend myself when she jumped in my face.
Just a second. All right, let's take this slowly, Rena.
Yes.
She's sitting on the couch. And where are you? Sitting or standing?
No, it's a little love seat. And before she could sit down, when she sat down before I could sit down, she was back up and I rose up.
I have to get this as a mental picture.
Okay.
You are standing.
Yeah. Talking to her like this, well, like we're side by side.
Right.
And I said, sit down, let's talk.
You said sit down.
Uh-huh.
She starts to sit down, and you're still standing.
Uh-huh, before I could even get there.
No, not before. You're still standing.
Yes, I am.
So she sits, and you're standing, and then she just jumps up.
Just like that.
And then you, Rena, look
Yes.
at me. Then you did what?
And then when she did that, because
she did that. She jumped up. Just tell me what you did.
When I jumped up, I lunged back, and she did like this, and then that's when
You what?
I
Get it out.
defended myself. When she
No,
put her...
you didn't say... I don't want you to tell me defend myself.
Anyway,
I want you
when
to tell
she
me...
put her hands in my face, I put my hands in hers.
No, Rena.
I did.
Rena, listen to me. Listen to me, Rena.
I did.
Listen to me, Rena.
When she
Rena,
okay.
pay attention to me, madam. She jumped up.
Yes.
Because I read your answer.
Yes.
She didn't put her hands on you, but you put your hands on her, and I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I mean, it really isn't funny for two adult women who have children to indulge themselves in this kind of behavior. So believe me, it's not funny.
Cases, real people, Judge Judy. Renee Nickerson says she was attacked by Rena Robinson after she tried to talk to her about a screw that came loose from a video game.
And I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
That's what I did. When she jumped up...
No, you didn't. You didn't tell me what you did.
When she jumped up, I put my hands in her face to strike her or whatever.
In her face is not telling me, but she didn't get these injuries from putting your hands in her face.
Okay, in her face, on her, or whatever.
No, not whatever. Let's get back. Rena, let's get back to it, Rena.
Get back to it. This is how it went. When she jumped up.
Show me on your mother.
Okay, when she jumped, seriously. When she went to go sit down and she jumped up in my face like this, and I went back, and when she brought her hands to me, I didn't know what she was going to do, and I pushed them back, and then she launched back, and that's when we had the conflict back and forth.
So you put your hands on her first?
First, because I didn't know what she was going to bring to me.
I was trying to leave.
Just a second. You put your hands on her first.
Okay, well, then I accept that.
Well, that's what happened.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you just put your hands on her, and you were showing me with your mother that you just held both hands.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
This, I don't know, because
we don't know.
The ambulance did not come, no rescue squad or anything like that. So
Yes, they did. I called the ambulance and I called the police.
Okay.
Now,
how did you get involved in this?
Okay. Renee and I had discussed this Sunday. We talked about the losing of the screw and Nintendo game. So
You talked about it with the plaintiff.
That's
Renee.
right. Okay. And I told her, I said, well, what do you want Renee to do? Pay for the game or what? She said, no, all I need is a screw. See, can you find a screw? And I said, okay. Hung up the phone, and that was that. We never discussed it anymore. Well, I thought it was settled as she had discussed it with me. So Rena came in that Tuesday, and I was getting ready because I was going in the hospital the next day. And I was laying down in the bed relaxing. That's when I heard them talking on the phone. Rena said, Mama, she assumed that she was talking to you. All the time she was talking to me. So when I heard she said she was coming over, well, at that time, Rena had walked out of my room and was halfway in the living room, laughing about it. So Renee walked to the door, and she, bam, 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 bam. I jumped up because I didn't know what was going on. So I wanted to know who was knocking on my door and that rapid raid. So by the time I got there, Renee said, why are you knocking on the door like that? She said, I wanted to make sure that you heard me.
Okay.
And Rena let her in. Okay. Then she told her, she said, come on in and sit down. Rena was standing like this, and Renee was getting ready to sit down. She went to sit and jumped up. At that time, I guess she said, well, I don't need to sit down. We just get it over with, the discussion. So Rena said, what is it pertaining to? And it was all but about a screw. So she said that, I guess when Renee jumped up, Renee didn't know what she was going to do. And at that time, as in anger in her, she didn't know whether she had a weapon or what.
Just tell me what happened. Okay. Don't tell me what was in somebody's mind. I want to hear what happened.
Okay. And, all right. So this is what happened. They got to fighting.
No, you don't get to fighting. Somebody fights first.
Well, that's what I had said. Okay. Rena put her hands on her first.
How?
Well, like...
When she came
no,
to
no,
me.
no.
No, not
you
you.
already told me. Now your mother's going to tell me.
Okay. She was having...
Listen to me.
I'm just saying...
No, you say nothing. Your mother is going to show me.
Okay. She pushed her back.
She pushed her.
Okay.
And then what happened?
Then the other one pushed back too. So then they got together and started tussling. And I tried to tell them to stop. I never touched her. Never did. I touched my own daughter, trying to make her stop because it was unnecessary to fight over a screw. Okay, so then they got to really going at it. So when I did get them apart, Renee went out of the door. She was standing there at the door. Then my Renee hit her again because she wasn't moving out the door fast enough.
Where did she hit her?
Okay, I think she slapped her or hit her up.
Slapped her in the
face. Yeah, she slapped her. Yeah, she did. Okay, but when they really got to tussling again, it was outside the door in the complex.
You mean after your daughter hit her in the face?
Yeah, they went on out.
She jumped at me about 3 or 4 times.
Oh, okay. Anyway, they went on out, and they still was tussling.
Aren't you ashamed of yourselves?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As far as me jumping on her, I'll do better on jumping on Godzilla. Look how big she is.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Renee Nickerson and Rena Robinson are in dispute about a fight that broke out over a broken video game.
Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? You recently came to your mother's house.
Yes.
Your mother has had a relationship with this lady, evidently a pleasant one, for a long time, right? Where were you that you were away?
I was in Alabama.
Did you live there?
Yes, I was.
So you just came to visit?
I came back because I was living in California before, and then I moved away because I was working and different things like that.
But your son always lived with your mother.
My son lives with his father.
Lives with his father.
He was just visiting.
He was just visiting.
He was just visiting.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions for you, and then I'm going to get back to how these injuries occurred. Why is it that you didn't tell her right away when you were talking to her on the phone that I'm Rena, I'm not my mother?
She was too loud. She didn't hear me. I tried to tell her that.
She did.
She was very, very loud, and she wouldn't listen.
Why would she be loud talking to your mother?
Because something, I don't know.
Had you ever had any difficulty with Renee before?
Not really. Not really. Nothing where is that we couldn't solve.
Well, then that seems kind of strange, doesn't it? I mean, the last conversation, according to you, that you had was just about a screw, and we'll take care of it.
Right.
So it doesn't sit right with me that she would call and be hostile with you on the phone.
Yes, she was.
Well, you don't know that. Your daughter told you she was.
Okay. No, I don't know that.
No, your daughter told you she was hostile
on the phone. Yeah, but I was laying right there listening to the whole conversation.
No, you weren't. You only heard your daughter's end of the conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
You said she was in the room sick.
That's where the phone is in Mother's room.
Well, whatever. She wasn't.
Okay. We'll take that too. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Now, I want you to tell me not how this young lady assaulted you, but you say her mother assaulted you as well. The mother says that she was just trying to split you up.
Well, maybe she was, but she had drugged me, or one of them had drugged me on the floor.
One of them?
One of them.
But you're not sure whom?
I'm not sure who. By the time I got to the door, as far as a weapon go, Your Honor, this is what I had on. A little nightie that she tore up. I didn't come over. I don't even have a weapon. I was standing at the door. Her son was holding me by both of my arms, and I've been trying to go home ever since she first started arguing. So anyway, finally she's finished fighting. I said, "Can I have my shoe?" Val gave...
What was she doing with your shoe?
My shoe came off during the fight. Val gave her my shoe. She took my shoe, threw it at my lip, busted my lip.
Who did?
This Renee.
Well, there's no question she assaulted you.
Okay.
No, listen to me. I want to explain something to you so that we can shorten this because I have other work to do today. There's no question that she assaulted you.
But Your Honor,
I'm asking about her mother.
Her mother?
I'm asking you whether you know if her mother assaulted you or whether she was just trying to break up this fight.
Now, see, that's what I'm not sure if she was trying to help Renee or trying to break it up because I have too many injuries for just one person.
Can I see your medical bills, please?
Sure. This is from Harvard General, and these are the radiology reports.
When she hit you at the door, listen to me. You're starting to talk. Let me ask my question first. Her mother, who I believe is an honest woman who's testified pretty credibly here today, that her own daughter slugged you in the face as you were trying to leave because you weren't moving fast enough. I don't know why you think this is funny. This really isn't funny.
It's not really.
I mean, it really isn't funny for two adult women who have children who are trying to set examples for their children to indulge themselves in this kind of behavior. So believe me, it's not funny.
It's not really about
I
the
agree.
funniness.
I would like you to tell me, when she hit you at the door, did she slap you or punch you?
I don't even know. Your Honor, by the time I got my shoe, I'm trying to run out the door. I got outside the door. Next thing I know, Renee runs up behind me, put me in the headlock. I had to bite her so she can turn me loose. Then she threw me down on some bricks. Then she jumped on me again. And it took two men that lived next door, and those two men that lived next door, they had to pull her off of me. And then I got the cast. I had to wear the cast. I'm still supposed to be in the cast. I had to cut all my pants and alter my clothes. I've been miserable. This is misery. And it's all behind it. It was uncalled for. It shouldn't have even happened.
You're absolutely right. I still don't see a bill for your medical expenses.
There's no bill. Medi-Cal paid for my expenses.
So you had no out-of-pocket expenses. So you're suing for pain and
suffering.
You're suing for pain and suffering. Okay.
I couldn't use my this hand, or I still can't use my leg, and I don't even know when I'll be able to wear a pair of shoes again.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a facilitator.
What does that mean?
I'd hire myself out, housework, cooking, domestic.
And you're living with your mother now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Well, this ridiculous screw is going to cost you $1,000.
Okay.
And as far as I'm concerned, you still owe her an apology.
I'll apologize.
And I still don't know why you think that there's any amusement about this situation.
My smile is a part of my personality. It has nothing to do with humor.
I'm still being treated.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a beautician.
Have you been able to work?
I got my license.
No, listen to me. Have you been able to work?
No.
How are you supporting yourself?
AFDC and disability.
Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties, excuse you may step out.
And
Mrs. Maher, step forward, please.
48-year-old teacher Judy Matson wants her ex-husband Don Marr to pay for their 10-year-old daughter's many medical bills. Marr, a computer programmer, says his ex-wife is a hypochondriac and is raising their daughter to be one.
Order, all rise. Judges number 104 on the calendar in the matter of Matson versus Maher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Miss Matson, you and the defendant were married for how long?
15 years.
And how long are you divorced?
About 3 years, 4 years.
You have a 10-year-old daughter together.
Right.
Do you have any other children?
No.
Do you, sir?
I have a stepson.
But you have no other biological children?
No.
According to your complaint, Ms. Madsen, your judgment of divorce provides that your former husband pay 1/2 of any unreimbursed medical bills.
Correct.
In addition to child support.
Mm-hmm.
And he does pay child support faithfully according to your answer, sir. Is
Yes,
that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much do you pay in child support for your daughter?
$420 a month.
And according to your complaint, you have liberal visitation with the child.
About 30% of the time.
Give me the times. Is it weekends?
Wednesday, overnight, weekends, split holidays, half Christmas.
And you avail yourself of all of your visitation?
As much as I can.
Is that true?
He doesn't on all of them. The last 2-week visitation he had, he only took a week.
But most of the time he sees
Yes,
her every
most of the
week.
time, and he's always there on time.
Good. All right. Ms. Madsen, you say that he has not paid some of the unreimbursed medical bills.
Correct.
I'd like you to tell me which bills those were.
Here, I have a summary on top so you can see some of them are for prescription, some of them are for therapy, for speech therapy, some of them are for the deductible on the chiropractic.
Well, let's talk about all these bills. These are very heavy bills without looking through them. Does your daughter suffer from any handicap?
No.
Then why does she have all of these medical bills?
These bills are over about a 2-year period. They're not just in the last 6 months.
Even so. First of all, can you tell me why the child goes to a chiropractor?
Her back hurts and her neck hurts.
Who suggested that a chiropractor was necessary for a 10-year-old child?
No one. I go every week. And she had complained for about a year about her back. And I suggested that she give the chiropractic a try. And if it didn't work, that we wouldn't do it anymore.
Why do you go to the chiropractor every week?
Because I have slight scoliosis and my back hurts, my neck hurts.
Quite frankly, Ms. Madsen, I never heard of anybody taking a 9 or a 10-year-old child to a chiropractor because their back hurt if it was undiagnosed by a doctor as a specific problem. Your first response should have been taking the child to an orthopedist, having a set of x-rays taken, and if it was something that had to be addressed by a chiropractor, it's addressed by a chiropractor. Let's hear about some of these other bills that you have.
There's medication for Ritalin. She's been diagnosed as ADHD.
When was she diagnosed as ADT?
She was diagnosed by her pediatrician, her therapist, by 2 separate therapists.
Which
and by
therapist?
Dr. Andrea Christensen.
When was that? How old was she when she was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder?
7.
And what prompted you to take her to a therapist?
I'm a teacher, and I work with first grade children at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm aware of how children are when they don't pay attention.
So you're telling me that the child has been on Ritalin for 3 years?
Right.
Was she retested?
Yes.
When?
This last spring by her teacher.
By who?
Well, her teacher fills out a paper having to do with her ability to pay attention.
Teachers don't make evaluations with regard to whether a child needs medication.
You're absolutely right. They do not. But they do report to the doctor whether the child is able to stay in her seat, whether she's able to complete her classwork, and how she is performing.
Well, I would assume that if you've had the child on Ritalin, that the child was doing fine.
Right, she is.
So if the child was doing fine, why wouldn't you want to try to wean her off the Ritalin at age 10 to see if it was a problem of short duration?
She has, from time to time, not taken her Ritalin when she's gone to school in the morning, not known to me. And I've gotten a call from the teacher that night wanting to know what was going on with our daughter and why she was so inattentive at school.
Yes.
How old was she when that occurred?
This is just this last year.
Why wasn't I informed?
Don't talk to her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ritalin is overprescribed. You ring a bell, 40% of the class gets up or runs into the nurse to get their pill.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 48-year-old Don Marr says his ex-wife Judy Madsen is turning their 10-year-old daughter into a hypochondriac, and he will not be responsible for unnecessary medical bills.
Office visit Dr. Walker. Who's Dr. Walker?
And that's her pediatrician.
That's on the 5th. Is that a, we don't know whether that was June 5th of 96.
It was probably a check on the Ritalin.
Well, then you
Oh,
had,
you know, it's
you had
probably
another
95.
office visit. You had another office visit less than 6 weeks later, the same doctor.
She suffers from chronic ear infections and allergies. And she has had episodes of problems breathing. And at one time she had a fever over 5 days, and she was tested for valley fever. And
what kind of fever did she have over 5 days?
Apparently it was a virus, but at the time the doctor thought it might be pneumonia. She sent me
pneumonia
down.
you check by going for an X-ray.
We went and had an X-ray, and it was clear. And the doctor suspected that it was.
So then it was, you know, it wasn't pneumonia. If you had the X-ray, and the X-ray is clear, then you know you don't have pneumonia.
Correct.
So then it's something that goes away.
But it didn't go away in 4 days. And so...
Sometimes it doesn't go away in 4 days.
Well, and I called her back,
Sometimes it
and
takes
she
a week.
tested her for tuberculosis and valley fever, both of those.
But it went away after 5
Right,
days.
right.
So all that was really unnecessary to put the child through all of that stuff.
Well, the first initial visit was unnecessary.
The next one is May 18th of 95.
Right.
Prescription multivitamin fluoride.
Right.
What is that?
It's a fluoride tab that is prescribed by her physician, supported by her dentist, for healthy teeth. Fluoride tablets that she chews after she has brushed her teeth. She has hypercalcified teeth.
Then we go to therapy, Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
There are several therapies that I do prior to that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What kind of a doctor is Christensen?
She's a family therapist, and I took her initially with the divorce.
Why are you still seeing, she's still seeing this Christensen in 1996?
There has been a death in her
death of
grandfather. Her grandfather passed away, and she had difficulty dealing with that.
When was that?
That was almost a year ago, in
My
September.
father, Your Honor, died in September.
Yeah, but she's been going to see this Christensen all along. It didn't make any difference whether there was
Since
a death
August
or
of
not.
'93.
According to your bills here, it's at least every week that she goes to see this therapist.
At first it was almost every week, but now she goes about once a month.
Ventolin.
That's for asthma.
She has asthma?
Yes.
She been diagnosed as having asthma?
Right.
Do you know anything about that, sir?
Never witnessed it, never saw it, paid for the appliances, paid for the stuff. I've never seen that little girl wheeze. I've seen her have a runny nose. That's it.
Just a second.
It's absurd. I see her a third of the time. I should witness at least one episode. You'd think.
Ms. Madsen, I'm just reading this over because I was disturbed when I read these papers, quite frankly. And I wanted to look through your records. Let's take 1996. You have an office visit with the pediatrician on February 13th of 96. You have an office visit with the pediatrician on February 28th, 96. You have an office visit with the pediatrician on March 15th of 96. You have an office visit with the pediatrician on April 1st. As a matter of fact, there were 2 office visits listed for April 1st. You have another office visit on April 26th with the pediatrician. You have another office visit on May 28th with the pediatrician. You have another office visit on August 1st with the pediatrician. You have another office visit. No, there are none other listed here. So those are the office visits that you have with the pediatrician. All right, Mr. Maher, I'd like to hear from you, sir.
This is a patient consultant text for the 2 drugs that I refused to pay for. The Ritalin, that's the toothpaste and the vitamins. Because I believe you could use Crest and a vitamin and get bottled water, and that would go away. I believe her back problems would go away if she would stand tall, put a book on her head.
Well, you're not a doctor either. She has
No, I'm not.
She has pains in her back. Yeah, go ahead.
A little common sense would go a long way.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When it appears to me that a child is overly involved with the medical profession, bells go off in my head. I guess it's part of my training.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Judy Madsen is fighting with her ex-husband Don Marr over whether he should pay half of their daughter's extraordinary medical bills. Don says Judy is turning their daughter into a hypochondriac.
What else, sir?
There's a set of bills from June 23rd, 1996 in our correspondence. And basically I refused to pay bills that were older than 30 days. She had gotten really lax. There are bills in there that are a year. This is 1 week before I'm going to see the child. I get $465 worth of bills. That's going to ensure the fact that I can't do the things I'd planned. So I paid 30 days and said, I'm not paying the rest, Judy. I'm not paying that, I'm not paying that, I'm not paying that. And she says, well, why not? Mm-hmm. You're the father, you're supposed to pay. And I said, because I am a responsible parent, I can't. I mustn't pay.
What else? Because I don't think that that's what you're complaining about, sir.
No, I'm really complaining about the misuse of my daughter. I'm really complaining about taking her to this doctor and that doctor and this doctor and running her all around, and she can't be a kid. That's really what I'm angry about. And I'm angry. It's got to stop. I don't know how. Don't know how to make this stop. I think as far as the other bills...
I can think of several ways, sir, that seem to be reasonable. Do you have a copy of your judgment of divorce, either one of you? I do. May I take a look at it, please? This was an agreement that you hammered out between the 2 of you, I assume, either through mediation or by attorneys. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Attorneys.
Through attorneys. You're not supposed to smile when you say that, sir. Look, I do not get the sense, Miss Madsen, that your former husband wants to be anything but a good parent to this child and wants to be remiss in his financial responsibility. I say that because he is faithful in paying his child support. He does pay for certain of her medical and dental bills. He does pay for her orthodontic bills. He does pay for other bills. I will tell you that I was concerned when I read your papers. I'll tell you why. Whenever I see a child, a young child who is otherwise healthy, go to a doctor as frequently as your daughter does and have as many kinds of prescription medications as your daughter has, even though some of them can be acquired over the counter with a little bit of imagination. When a child is taken to a chiropractor without any specific referral by an orthopedist, when it appears to me that a child is overly involved with the medical profession, bells go off in my head. I guess it's part of my training. That sometimes there's a problem not so much with the child, but with the custodial parent.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't think that he has to pay anything for this child's chiropractor unless he was consulted and was satisfied that that was a reasonable thing and a necessary treatment for his child. Now, I wouldn't say that with all parents who come before me, because I would say, listen, he may withhold his consent, and that would be unreasonable. But because of his history of payment and of visiting the child regularly and being involved with the child, my sense is that Mr. Maher would not deny his only biological child with the necessary medical treatment that she needs. I tell you now that the reasons that you give for your daughter seeing this, continuing to see this is it Miss Christensen or Mr. Christensen?
Miss Christensen.
I am not satisfied with those reasons. I can absolutely see why a child going through a period of divorce would be served well if both parents are involved, initially and for a brief period of time, some ongoing family counseling. It's not to be used as a lifelong crutch. If you have a child who suffers from ADD, and unfortunately, I believe that that is a highly over-touted illness today. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, the child should not be on Ritalin unless the child is tested.
She has been tested.
No. Not in 3 years, except for a teacher who writes up reports. A teacher.
No. Her therapist, she went to 2 different therapists and her pediatrician.
A psychiatrist?
Yes.
A psychiatrist? A PhD?
No.
Show me.
Now,
I'd love to see the
just
report.
a second. There is nothing here. There is nothing here that suggests to me that this child saw, other
That's
than
because he paid the bill.
Other than Dr. Christensen, a psychiatrist, that's an MD.
That's because he paid the bill, Your Honor.
What I'm telling you is, I think any parent who keeps a child on Ritalin for anywhere near approaching a year without testing to ensure that it is absolutely necessary for this child is making a tragic mistake. Ritalin is overprescribed. 40% of kids, 12 o'clock in school today, you ring a bell, 40% of the class gets up and runs into the nurse to get their pill. And I want to tell you something. I sat in the family court for 15 years, and I was in the family court for almost a quarter of a century. And these kinds of medications are prescribed at least as often for the parents as they are for the children. That's a problem. Once you begin to believe that you can use a therapist as a crutch, and that starts as early as 5 and 6 and 7, and your child has been in therapy for 3 years, and I haven't seen any reason why. So I'm not ordering you to pay for therapy. And what I am telling you is, in the future, would be my judgment, unless it's an emergency, before you incur any medical expense that you expect him to contribute to, you discuss it with him and get his approval. And if you cannot get his approval, then the two of you sit down and decide, call up the American Medical Association, get the name of the top specialist in your area. The two of you go, have a consultation. You choose one. Choose 2. Have your consultation, and let the best therapist, the best professional in the area make a judgment as to whether this medical procedure is necessary. Aside from that, I'm not ordering to pay anything. That's all.
All right, excuse you may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next...
Eric versus Ferrin. Step forward, please.
32-year-old sports anchor David Lee Ehrlich is suing 32-year-old teacher Rhonda D. Furin for an engagement ring he says he gave her because they were supposed to be married. She says he's the one who called off the wedding.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Hearing number 78 on the calendar in the matter of Ehrlich versus Ferrin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Ehrlich, you want your engagement ring back?
Correct.
She says that you owe her a small fortune, so she's countersuing $5,000, which would make this case a wash.
That's what I understand.
So why don't you tell me about this ill-fated romance, sir?
You bet. Your Honor, Rhonda Furin is a woman that I was madly in love with, okay? We both are from Minnesota. She took a teaching job in California for a year. We dated for 2 years. This last February in Las Vegas, I proposed to Rhonda, and I gave her an engagement ring. Okay, she accepted that engagement ring.
Tell me about the engagement ring.
You bet. The engagement ring, which I have here that I bought, was $1.5 carat, okay, engagement ring. And basically, the value of it is $8,000, but I have the receipt right here. Interesting you asked about an engagement ring. The first engagement ring I gave her was 1 carat, okay? That wasn't big enough. When Rhonda came back to Minnesota, we exchanged that ring, we got a bigger one. After that second ring, we got her a third ring because that one wasn't clear enough. I got a bigger and a clearer ring for her, which was at Bediner Jewelry right there. Okay?
That should have told you something right then and there,
right
sir.
there, absolutely. Yes, it should have, Your Honor.
Go.
Basically what happened is that when we got engaged, from that night on February 7th of '97, I found out recently that Rhonda had never any intention of not only marrying me, she was not in love with me. She was basically, which I have a very crucial witness here, her roommate, basically who she lived with, that this was one big con game. Rhonda was taking me for everything I had, money, wardrobes, rent money, grocery money, everything. She was not in love with me. And the most important thing out of this whole thing is that Rhonda, you know, it is so actually embarrassing and hurtful to say this. Rhonda had already been in a serious relationship, a guy that was spending 2-3 nights a week over at her apartment with her roommate that she was sleeping with, that she was with, and basically, okay, this person that she was with was already 2 months old into her relationship when she accepted my ring on the stage of Caesar's Palace, okay, on February 7th. Now, the only thing I need to really say here is how many engaged couples, how many people ask someone to get married and that person, Rhonda, goes back to California that night with the engagement ring, we're all happy. I never heard from her. I didn't hear from her that next day. I didn't hear from her a week later. I finally called a roommate at 11 o'clock, midnight, all around the clock saying, have you seen Rhonda, my fiance? Do you know where she is, Terry? Terry was covering for Rhonda because Rhonda was with another guy. This all came out. I was made a fool of. Rhonda finally got a hold of me, Your Honor, and she said, hey, I still love you. I still want to be with you. She came to Minnesota, and what's my proof? We had an engagement dinner. My sister put on an engagement dinner. My whole family there. The ring went around the table to my cousins and aunts. She played my whole family for this act, this scam, that she was going to move back at the end of June, this month, right now. She was going to move back, and she was going to plan a May of '98 wedding in front of everybody. When she got this third ring that you have, that when she came back to Minnesota at the end of April, she took the ring, and this is very important. The jeweler says to her, ma'am, you can pick up the ring in the morning. I will have it mounted and set for you. No, Mr. Bediner, that won't do any good. I need the ring right now. Ma'am, I'd have to stay here and pay my guy until 7:30 night. They did it for her. I said, Rhonda, can I ask you, why do you have to be home? It's Saturday night. You have a week left of vacation before you go back to teaching. Why tonight? I have to get back tonight. No, I'm going to school Monday. I found out, Your Honor, that she got that ring. She took it that night. They stayed late for her. She went back to California. She moved out of her apartment from her ex-roommate, okay? I never heard from her again. I never had a phone number. I never had a forwarding address, nothing. I never heard from Rhonda again. It was at that point just recently, 3 weeks ago, her roommate said, David, excuse me, you ready? This is going to hurt you, but I think it's time you stop calling me because I'm in the middle of this and I don't want to be in the middle of it. She has been on the phone with you for the last 3 months. She's made up all these stories that you owe her money and that you're this and you're that, the whole thing. David, she is with another guy. This guy, I know his name. He's in the room today. She is living with him, okay? She does not love you. She wanted to get the money. You bought her all these clothes, David. You're an idiot. Her roommate was saying, you've gotten all these clothes for her and the money and the cash and everything that you've given her. I said, Terry, I was in love with her.
Where's Terry?
Right here.
Step up here. You were Miss Fern's roommate?
Yes, I was.
How long were you her roommate?
6 months.
You've just heard him tell this very sad story. Is it accurate?
Yes. She told me from the get-go that she did not love David. She had no intentions of ever moving back to Minnesota or marrying him. She told me that he owed her all this money and she needed to keep the relationship going to get the money back from him that he had owed her.
What money did she say he owed her?
She told me that he owed on a couple credit cards that she had done cash advances on for him, and other money while they were living together in Minnesota.
How much money did she say?
It was thousands from what she said.
Did she tell you she had no intention of marrying him?
Yes. On
What
more
did
than
she
one
say?
occasion. She said she didn't love him. She was doing this just to get her money back, and she was never moving back to Minnesota. She was staying here.
May I ask one thing, Your Honor? When I found this out from Terry on the phone, I was kind of playing the judge for a second. I said, Terry, let me ask you something. Why would you tell me this? Why? She is the, you're the witness. You're the roommate of Rhonda. Why would you go to bat for me? Why would you come into court for me? And not that this is what we'll spend our time with today, because she's done the exact same thing to her roommate. She has stuck her roommate with bills. She has lied to her roommate, and she's lied about everything that, in front of me and my family. I mean, okay, go ahead. I mean, it's one lie. It's one lie after another.
Sit down, please. Could you step up, please?
My name is Jan Ehrlich. I'm David's sister. We welcomed Rhonda into our home as a guest for a week. They had gone on a trip to Cancun. They came back. We put on an engagement dinner. We announced to everybody, my aunt and my cousins, that they were getting married, passed around the ring. They happened to have been there the next night. They saw the next ring. And from the moment that David asked for the ring back, and this is something that she's done before, any information that she had gathered about our family for the week that she was a guest in our home, she tries to turn it around and use it against us. She threatened to call a family member's girlfriend and say that this family member, she saw them flirting with another woman.
I'm not interested in that.
And
now, Rhonda, you must have a side to this story, madam.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
When you lie to a judge once, they don't believe whatever you say. So I don't have to listen to whatever you say. You're a liar.
Real people. Judge Judy. Sports anchor David Ehrlich says he proposed to Rhonda D. Furin in front of a Las Vegas show audience. And she kept the ring, but not the wedding date.
First, let me see the ring.
It's sold.
Do you have a receipt?
Just a sec.
Sorry.
Just a second. Hey. She was very quiet.
You're absolutely right.
She was very quiet. Why did you sell the ring?
David owes me in excess of $10,000 on the remaining amount that he had borrowed, $40,000. And he had told me that I could keep the ring to pay off past debt.
I want to see the receipt of the sold ring.
I have his phone number, and I have a appraisal of the ring. He is saying the ring is worth
Now listen to
$8,000.
me. Don't try to dance around me. I said I want to see a receipt where you sold the ring. Not its appraisals. Not its appraisal, madam. Not anything else. I want to see from the jeweler or the person to whom you sold the ring, the receipt that you sold the ring for how much. Do you have it?
I don't have a receipt. I just have his name and number. And
you do?
Mm-hmm.
Give it to me.
And an appraisal.
Give it to me. Now, what is this? For relative? What does that mean?
Bassam bought it for a relative of his in the Middle East.
Who's Bassam?
A neighbor of mine.
Neighbor of yours from where?
Where I reside.
And where is that?
Chino Hills.
Watch them. Mr. Basson, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. Do you know who I am? Yes. That's correct, sir. Now you know who I am? I have some questions to ask you, sir. Did you purchase a ring recently? A diamond ring. No, is not an answer, sir. That requires a yes or a no. Did you purchase a diamond ring from Miss Furman? Mr. Basson? I know you're there, sir. The answer is yes or no, Mr. Basson. Please don't keep me on the phone. Did you buy a diamond ring from her, sir? Thank you very much, sir.
That's a good one. Order.
You, madam, are a liar. Because I just spoke to this gentleman. He said he was going to buy the ring, but he gave it back.
I don't have it.
You know what happens when you lie to a court once? Madam,
Yes.
when you lie to a judge once, they don't believe whatever you say. So I don't have to listen to whatever you say. You're a liar.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today,
He's lying, and I don't know. This isn't the
To
person.
extort money after 6 years.
This isn't the person I knew 6 years ago, so I don't know who this is, but this person is lying.
this is Real People, Judge Judy. Rhonda Furin says she loaned David Ehrlich thousands. That's why she kept the ring.
Listen to me. Mr. Ehrlich.
Yes.
It is clear to me that you were taken for a ride, sir. This lady wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped her in the face.
Thank God. somebody
You are
actually said that.
entitled to everything that you are demanding in this complaint. You are countersuing him for $5,000. I'm not interested in a word you had to say because you lied to me. So I'm dismissing your counterclaim, and I'm awarding plaintiff the $5,000, which is the maximum I can award him in this court. Thank you very much, Mr. Ehrlich. Be smart next time. Mr. Ehrlich, don't say anything. You just won. Listen to me. Be smart next time.
Thank you
If
very
you
much.
give a girl a ring, an engagement ring, and she asks for a bigger one, it's not somebody that I would want to live the rest of my life
Thank you
with.
very
That's
much,
all.
Rhonda. Thank you. Amen.
Next step out. Back to the right.
Thank you.
I have a tape of him in my bed with another woman in which he blackmailed the lady for $50,000. I have his criminal record.
Let's see the
I
tape.
have promissory notes where he owes me $40,000.
Am I ready? No.
I have personal ads where he placed personal ads to get women to give him money.
Party's on Gilmore versus Stein. Step forward, please.
Kathy Gilmore is suing her former boyfriend, Jay Stein Jr., for his half of a Mexican vacation they took 6 years ago to restore their romance.
Miss Gilmore, you say he owes you for a 1991 trip that you took to Mexico, right?
Yes.
Could you mind telling me what took you so long?
Well, we were involved in a relationship for another 2 years after we took the trip, and even after we broke up, we continued to be close friends.
Well, in the 2 years that you were together, what did you do about collecting his half of the debt for the trip?
I would bring it up from time to time, and he would always be apologetic and promise to try to make payment when he got his tax refund or when he got on his feet.
Any of that sound familiar to you?
The part about taking the trip, yes.
So, now where have you been since 1993?
We've been in touch by phone. We live far apart, so we've always been in touch. And the topic has come up on regular occasions, and again, he always felt badly that he hadn't paid and promised to try to pay me when he could. And
why did you pay for this trip in 1991?
He had been away on a cruise ship for 4 months in the South Pacific, and we were celebrating his return. We wanted
He was
to take a
working. You
vacation.
were working on the
He was
cruise?
working.
What kind of work did you do on the cruise?
Musician?
And he asked me, we talked about taking a trip together, and he told me to go ahead and book the trip to Cancun. We decided to go to the jazz festival. So I did, and I charged it on my credit card with a full understanding that he was going to pay for his half.
Whose understanding?
Both of ours. And I have a letter here from him that he sent while he was on the ship asking me to book the vacation, and he didn't care where we went as long as we were together, and had some suggestions of some ideas where we might want to go.
Does that letter say he was going to pay for half?
No, it just says it doesn't matter where we go as long as we're
Just
together.
says book it. You've heard the phrase statute of limitations. You know what that means?
Yes.
Tell me your interpretation of what that means.
You only have a certain amount of time that you can recover your money.
Right. And there is a logical reason for that, because I usually don't feel compelled to abide by any particular state legislation, because people who come to this court come from all over the country. And even I could not learn all the laws of every jurisdiction, because they're all different. But there is a common sense reason for a statute of limitations, and that is that people only keep bills and papers and receipts for so many years. And after that, they destroy them. So if you have a lawsuit, you are encouraged by the law to be prompt in filing it, so that not only do you have the proper paperwork, but the defendant against whom you are filing the lawsuit has an opportunity to defend himself or herself. In this case, somebody who would have to show me his visa back 6 years ago, which I assume you don't have.
I have it.
You do?
Yes.
You are a terrific guy. However, most people don't. You are certainly a compulsive guy if you've got your bills dating back 6 years. How long did it take you to find those?
A few minutes.
God, you want to come to my house? But that's the reason. So I would like to take a look at it.
Sure. I understand that. The reason I never filed in court was because we had always been friends. There had always been an acknowledgement up until July of 1996 that he was going to pay me the money. And suddenly he severed all contact in July of 96. I was shocked that suddenly he was acting as though he didn't owe me the money. And that
Did you ever tell her that you owed her this money?
No, there was never an agreement between us. And there was a time of 2 years where we didn't have any contact.
That's not true. I have phone bills. I have them all here.
Are you married now, sir?
No, sir.
You with somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
For how long?
Almost a year now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Look, Miss Gilmore, whether you believe that you had a right to rest on this alleged debt for 6.5 years because you were still on speaking terms with him or not, I find that you waited too long to pursue this claim. And you didn't even immediately after your breakup. You weren't even vigilant at that time. I'm not going to go into why you are 7 years later pursuing this matter, which doesn't involve a lot of money. It involves a relatively small amount of money. I don't know why. Is there any particular reason why right now you are pursuing this claim for, what is it, $1,500?
Yeah, $1,600.
Why?
Well, mainly because the entire time that I was waiting and hoping for him to pay me back, I wasn't in a financial position where I really needed the money. A couple of years ago, I moved to New York, and it's a very expensive place to live, and I thought, you know, this is a lot of money that he owes me. I really should have this. This belongs to me. And that's why I pursued it with him a little more diligently, and he promised to try to borrow it from his sister, and I have a witness that listened to that conversation, that heard what he said.
Oh, really?
I do.
When was that conversation?
It was July of 96. I was advised that I should have a witness.
Do you remember that conversation where you then orally acknowledged that you had a debt to her?
No, Your Honor.
No. You say you have a witness.
True, Your Honor.
Miss Gilmore, you say you have a witness to that?
I do.
I'd like to hear that witness.
My witness is not here. I have a signed
Then I have
statement.
no witness. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Please excuse. You may step out.
And 35-year-old Mark Durand says he loaned thousands to his former girlfriend, payroll supervisor Melissa Blick, 32, while she was married to another man. Melissa says the money was a gift.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 470 on the calendar in the matter of Durand versus Blick. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Durand, according to your complaint, you became involved with the defendant while she was married and made a series of loans to her. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Several $1,000s, $3,000.
Almost 3,000, yes.
She says that you didn't make any loans. Whatever you gave her were gifts.
Gifts.
How did you meet each other?
Through a friend of mine's wedding. We both were involved in a wedding, and the lady that my buddy was marrying set us up to where we both walked down the aisle together.
And how long did this relationship last that you developed?
About 2.5 years.
It's a long time. You were living with your husband at the time?
Yes, and it was 2 years, ma'am.
Now tell me about these loans that you made to her during that time.
She'd asked for money. She said she wanted to get a job, and she needed money to get clothes and different things, and I gave her the money. At different times, she'd call and say, I need this much. I wrote a check for this amount, and I can't cover it. We put it in the bank on several different occasions. On receipts, I have all the bank receipts.
Well, just because you gave her money, Mr. Durant, doesn't mean that they were loans. What makes you think that they were loans, sir?
Well, the money I put in her account, I told her that had to be paid back. I gave her money also out of my pocket on different occasions.
I understand the dynamics of this situation from the papers that I have, which is you decided to stay with your husband and you called this relationship off.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was after that that you pursued these alleged loans.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Durant, were they loans?
Yes, at that time, yes, they were.
Which ones were loans, sir?
The ones I have the receipts from my bank account to her bank account on, yes, are loans.
And how much is that?
$2,920. The money that came straight out of my pocket, which is about $1,000, just giving her 100 here, 100 there, I told her don't worry about paying back.
Now, Mrs. Blick, $2,920 is what he said he has in bank receipts. Do you remember getting that kind of money from him?
Yes and no, ma'am.
Well, yes.
Okay, yes. But let me elaborate on that. I would pick up things, say groceries or whatever the case may be. I don't recall exactly everything I picked up, and he would say, if he didn't have the cash on hand, he would deposit it into my account.
That's a lot of groceries for $3,000.
No, it wasn't just groceries. It was several different things.
Like what?
Clothing.
For whom?
For himself.
Let me see the bank receipts, please. During this 2-year period, you were living with your husband or you were living with him?
No, I lived with my husband.
So what did groceries have to do with him?
No, if I was somewhere, he would ask me to pick up things for him. I would pick up things for him. If I was at the mall, he would ask me to pick up things. I would pick up things. He borrowed money from me and also deposited money into my account that he owed me.
Did you ever owe her any money?
No, ma'am.
For deposit to the account of Rob Blick.
That's her husband. I wrote
It's
it.
a joint account.
There's 2 receipts there on the same day. I think one's for 50 and one's for 110. One to her account and one to her husband's account, to where I wrote a check. I can't cover it.
Just a second. That's sort of interesting. Didn't your husband ask where this money was coming from if this was a joint account?
Ma'am, it's a joint account, okay, yes. But if he owed me the money, I would give him the money. This account basically
You're not answering my question, Mrs. Blick.
No, he didn't ask, because this account basically I take care of. He doesn't.
I'm looking at deposits to your account, $600.
Okay.
$320. Where's odd numbers? $110.
Because this would be money also that he owed me, that he had borrowed from me.
Well, explain that to me, Mrs. Blick. Explain to me how he borrowed money from you.
He would say that he didn't have any money. Could he please borrow some money? And I said yes, and I let him borrow money.
Does that sound familiar, sir?
No, ma'am. I don't see how I could borrow money from her if she wasn't working at the time, trying to get on her feet. How can I borrow money from her?
If you would look at those statements, ma'am, I did work.
I didn't ask you whether you worked or not. It just doesn't, something doesn't smell right when you say that you lent him money.
Well, I did.
How much?
I don't know the total amount that I loaned him, but I never, ever asked him to borrow money. He didn't give me money that I asked to borrow, ever.
$2,900.
Yes.
He deposited into your account. And you're telling me that none of this was a loan?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Well, tell me about it. You tell me about it. We're not talking groceries here. We're not talking about a box of cornflakes.
Well, I mean,
we're talking about, over a period of 2 years, almost $3,000, and that's not including what he says is cash out of pocket.
Okay, I will tell you about it. He would give me money. If I was going out, he would say, here, take some money, have some fun with your friends. He would ask me to borrow money because he does not work in the winter. He's off, several months. I'm not sure exactly how many months, and he did not work. There was times where he did not collect his unemployment for a certain amount of time. I don't know the balance there, how long it takes him to get his unemployment. He would ask for money from me also then. I would give him money because he had no money, no income whatsoever.
All these, Mr. Duran, receipts are for 1996. So that's during a one-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you had this affair over a two-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when did you start giving him money?
Starting into the second year. The first year, I mean, we were just seeing each other, and then she decided, she said she wasn't happy with her husband. She loved him more as a brother than a husband. She wanted out. She wasn't happy, but she was staying because of her son, her one son.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm not insecure, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
And later today,
7 years? I'm his best friend? Like, I don't know him
You
enough?
were my best friend.
Well, Megan, you know what? If you wouldn't have slipped around on him, maybe
I
I said
did
it would
slip
be.
around.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Duran wants his former girlfriend, Melissa Blick, to pay back the money he loaned her when she was married to another man. Melissa says the money Mark gave her was a gift.
You know, it was the wrong thing for her to get involved in this situation. It was also the wrong thing for you to
Yes,
get
ma'am,
involved
I
in
know.
this situation, sir. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, you have a tape that memorializes her statement that these were
Yes, ma'am, I do.
loans.
Yes.
When did you make that tape?
The last time I talked to her on the phone, which was, I think 4 months ago.
You want to tell me what it says on that tape?
I asked her when she's going to pay me. She says whenever. I told her to put it in my account. She said, to start with, she said no. At the end of the conversation, she agreed to put the money in my account. I gave her my account number, which is on the tape also. And she told me quit harassing her, which harassing her once every 3 months to call her, find out where my money is, I don't consider harassing. I told her if the money's not in my account, when I check my bank statements, that I want an answer why it's not there. And I won't call and harass her. And she agreed to that.
What did she say?
She said that she would start putting the money in my account. I told her I wanted $100, $50 to $100 a week. And she said, I can't promise you nothing because I have my truck payment or car payment out of one of her checks. And I said, well, if the money's not there, I want you to call me and let me know why it's not there so I don't have to call you and leave a message on your answer machine.
Does that sound familiar to you, Miss Blick?
The conversation we had somewhat like that, yes. He did call my house.
Where you said that you would put money in his account.
Yes, but I didn't owe him the money. I was just trying to get this man to leave me alone. He has harassed me. He has harassed my son. He has threatened to do things to me. He has told me I've had to watch my back. It was so bad.
Are you telling me that if I were to play this tape, it would say that you would start to put the money that you owed him into his account every week?
Yes.
That's it. I don't have to listen to the tape. Listen, Mr. Duran, she acknowledged that this was a loan. She acknowledged it on this tape. I don't have to listen to the tape because she's already told me that she told you that she would put the money in your account. I don't believe you, madam, when you say you told him that because he was harassing you. He wants his money. The two of you were involved in an affair that probably shouldn't have taken place. However, he gave you money. Some were gifts. $50 out of his pocket, go have a good time is not a loan. That's a gift. But clearly, you had an understanding that some of it was supposed to be returned. Perhaps if you had, in fact, left your husband and gone to live with him and had a life together, he would have forgiven those loans. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly what was said.
Well, Mr. Durand, you know the old song, Never Get Involved with a Married Man?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Goes the other way around, too, sir. All right. I'm satisfied that at least the monies that were placed in the defendant's bank account were placed there as a loan, and I am awarding you $2,920. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. The woman never needed money. If she needed money, she'd come to me. I never asked questions of what she did with the money. As far as what happened between them two, I don't really know. I'm not insecure, you know, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
I apologize for what went on between me and his wife, and I hope that if it does work out between them.
And now the next case.
Party's on Blas versus Blas. Step forward, please.
21-year-old medical receptionist Megan Blas claims her ex-husband, 22-year-old administrative assistant Philip Blas, owes her for a repossessed car and credit card bills. He's countersuing her for physical and mental abuse.
You folks were married for a short time and divorced.
Yes.
Yes.
And you are suing your former husband because you allege that he left you with a large debt.
Yes.
And you feel as if he should be responsible for half of the debt.
That's right.
You have a countersuit, sir.
Yes.
Some of that's nonsense. But basically, you are saying that, A, most of the stuff that's on the credit card bills and the other bills that she's complaining about were in her possession.
Mm-hmm.
B, you paid for a lot of the things, most of the things when you were married.
Yes.
And C, you want to be compensated for all the mental anguish that you went through because of her.
Yes.
Mental anguish is a subjective thing, sir. You're no longer subject to mental anguish because now you're divorced. Got it?
Got it.
Good. All right, so, Ms. Blas, let's talk about these things that you say your former husband is responsible for, at least in part. Let's start with the biggie on your list. Something about American General. Now,
Yes.
what's that for?
Well, we refinanced the car that we had because the finance company that we were with charged too much interest, so we went to something that was cheaper. And we also took an amount that I had already borrowed from them and an amount he had already borrowed and just all collaborated it into one payment.
For the car?
Yes.
What kind of car was this?
A Honda Civic CRX.
What year?
87.
What happened to the car?
It's since been repossessed and sold.
At the time that you separated, which was in what year?
97.
Where was the car?
It was in my possession.
So you kept the car?
Yes, I did.
And it was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
We both stopped making payments, yes.
Well, did you expect him to make payments on a car that you were driving?
No, I didn't.
So the car was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
Right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She had an affair on him. That's
Sit down. Talking money, they're talking sex.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Megan Blas wants her ex-husband, Philip Blas, to pay for a repossessed car and some credit card bills. He wants her to pay for physical and mental abuse.
What was your arrangement with her with the car, sir?
The agreement on the car was if she were to take back the car, she would make the payments and she'd make the insurance on it. And
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So then why are you suing him?
He co-signed on the loan, and so he is equally responsible, as, from what I understand.
Hold it. Let me understand this. You separated. You said to him, I want the car.
Right.
And if you give me the car, I'll assume the payments.
I never said I really would. I mean...
You just told me you said you would. You just told me you said you would.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So he turned the car over to you.
Right. But then since the loan is in both of our names...
I understand that. So you take care of it. You told him, give me the car and I'll take over the payments. Right?
Yes.
And you didn't.
Right.
So, take care of it. You made an arrangement with him. Give me the car and I will be responsible for it, is what you're saying. Then you weren't responsible for it. You weren't responsible, period. They repossessed the car. You want him to pay for half of whatever the deficit was.
Right.
Ridiculous. Next. That's the biggie. Let's go to the Sears bill. What did you buy at Sears?
Numerous household items.
Like what?
Television.
Where's the television?
In my house.
What else?
CD player that was in the car.
CD player that was in the car?
Yes.
That was in your possession?
Right.
That got repossessed? What else?
Clothing for the both of us.
Clothing. Well, he seems to say that he bought a few items of clothing. Right?
Yes.
What clothing did he put on this Sears card?
Work clothing.
How much was it worth?
I don't have an exact amount.
Well, then I can't give you an exact order. What else was on the Sears card? Anything else?
No.
No. That takes care of the Sears card. Gottschalk's. What kind of a store is that?
It's a department store.
And whose items were on that?
Both of ours.
What?
Clothing, mostly.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Maybe a pair of pants and a work shirt. That was about it. And I wasn't even allowed to charge on the Gottschalk's bill, so I had no access to it at all.
Whose name was that card in?
Mine, but he also had a card.
Did you have a card?
No, ma'am.
You have a bill from Gottschalk's?
I do not have a bill because I was not able to get those.
You get a bill every month.
I do, but they don't break it down.
We're talking about $338 Gottschalk's bill, right?
Yes.
Half of that is $169.
Correct.
But you can't establish to me what part of that $338 were his clothes. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's get to your countersuit, because that might take care of the whole ball of wax. You say that you borrowed $700 to buy this car. Is that right?
No, that was $700. There was a car payment that had to be made, rent, utilities, and those kind of things.
When was that?
It was over a period of time, a period of about 3 or 4 months.
Is that right before you separated?
Maybe 4 months before we separated.
Oh, please. Mr. Blass, forget about it, sir. Forget about that part of your countersuit.
Okay.
Because you can't substantiate. This is kind of nonsense. Now tell me about this mental anguish and be very, very brief.
There was physical abuse. I ended up having to defend myself a couple of times.
When you say defend yourself, you mean she hit you and you hit her?
She hit me and I stopped her from hitting me.
Stopped her? What'd you stop her with?
My hands.
Okay. Is that why I assume you separated?
No, there's some other details in there.
I don't want to know the other details.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had mental anguish when you were living with your former wife?
Yes.
You're not living with her anymore?
No.
Ma'am, may I say that I had mental anguish also?
Good.
I mean,
Everybody has
both
mental
ways.
anguish. Let me tell you something,
No matter what
folks.
relationship.
Let me tell you something. If you didn't have mental anguish, the two of you might still be together.
Correct.
You had mental anguish. You were smart enough to put a period and move on with your lives.
Right.
Why you're still suing each other, I have no idea.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Why?
Who
are you?
I'm his best friend. She had an affair on him. That's
Sit down. Talking money, they're talking sex. Look, Miss Blass, you didn't like living with him, you filed for divorce, you got a divorce, he defaulted, right?
Correct.
Put a period, move on with your life, sir.
Yes.
But for the fact that she sued you, you would never be here, is that correct?
Yes.
Good, so put a period, move on. Lawsuit, countersuit, dismissed. Have a nice day.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue.
42-year-old Wayne McNeil is suing his former lover, 29-year-old Jason Brickhouse. Wayne says when he and Jason broke up, Jason didn't pay his share of the rent or the money Wayne loaned to him. Jason claims he paid him.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is number 125 on the calendar in the matter of McNeil versus Brickhouse. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. You may be seated.
All right. According to these papers, the two of you were in a domestic partnership arrangement for quite some time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That arrangement, relationship is over. You claim, Mr. McNeil, that the defendant owes you almost $3,500.
That's correct.
Do you want to explain to me for what, sir?
We were in a relationship which parted in 1995, and Jason moved out, and he went through some problems and things, and towards the end of 1995, he didn't have anywhere to go. He couldn't afford to pay his rent and things like that, so I entered into an agreement with him that he could move in with me on the proviso.
How long had you been separated at that time, sir?
From June through December of 1995.
And how did it come about that he told you he was having these problems?
He called me one day at my office and said that he had lost his job, he'd been fired from his job, and would I go pick him up? And
does that sound familiar to you, sir?
No, that's not the way it happened, Your Honor.
Mr. McNeil stayed in contact with me when he moved out, always. Was always in contact with me. And
But
we
you
were
was
more,
not together anymore.
No, it was more of a friendship. It wasn't like I called him because I lost my job.
Did you make an arrangement to move back into his home?
Yes, I did.
And what was the financial arrangement?
We split everything.
Was that how it was right from the beginning when you moved back in?
I was a little bit behind. I went back to work in May.
When did you move in?
January.
So you went back to work in May?
Correct.
So you owed him rent for January, February, March, April, and I assume part of May. Is that right? 5 months?
But I paid it. But that would be the most.
How did you pay it if you weren't working?
He received my unemployment checks, and also I was temping. I did do work here and there during that
What were your
time.
unemployment checks?
$200.
A what?
Every 2 weeks or something.
Did you receive any of his
I
unemployment checks?
never received any of his unemployment checks. In fact, he always came up with excuses. And just as an example, one day he called me and in tears on the telephone that he'd been down to cash his unemployment check at a cash checking place on Santa Monica and La Brea. He'd walked out with the cash and he'd been mugged.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, that doesn't. I don't know what he's talking about.
That's the absolute truth.
I believe you, sir.
And I have people.
I believe you.
Thank you.
How much was the arrangement for rent?
Half of the rent. The rent at that time was $505, and he was going to pay $250. And also, as part of the agreement, it was basically just rent. And the rent actually included utilities and all that sort of thing. I never ever asked him for like food or, you know, if we were ever
All
going.
you wanted was the $250 a month. How many months did he live there?
From January through March this year. That's, what, 12, 15 months?
And how much did he pay you during those 15 months?
He paid me, it was a total of about $2,000. Did you get a copy of this?
No, I
with
have
the
nothing,
payments?
sir. I just have your complaint and his answer.
I've got that's a copy of the whole thing with the actual payments that he did make me, and those payments weren't made until he had gone back to work at his place of employment.
All right, well, certain of the monies were repaid. The rent was repaid, $2,000 worth. You have a whole list of things, checks written fraudulently and cashed?
Yes.
What is that about?
On September 8th last year, we got into an argument and I was actually arrested. He had already been arrested previously
for what?
For domestic violence.
I mean, you had a physical fight.
And during that time, part of the judge actually asked him to move out of my apartment. And during that week that I was actually in jail for that week, when I got back...
Why were you in jail for a whole week?
I think it was a mess with the judicial system at the jail
You mean they
downtown.
forgot about you?
I think so. So anyway, that's a whole other point. When I got back, 3 checks were written out of my checking account. He knew that I got paid during the time that I was in jail, and he wrote and cashed 3 checks to the value of $550 on my checking account.
Did you do that, sir?
Yes, I did, but I did not forge them. They were signed already.
Well, did you have permission to cash them?
No, I didn't have permission.
Well, then how come you did that?
I was mad at him. But, Your Honor, that money was paid back. You know, all this money that he's claiming...
Show me where it was paid back.
It was not, I don't have any receipts because I have tax liens against me. Everything I do is in cash. And I have a witness who is my current roommate now that will testify that I pay everything in cash, my utility bills, my rent, everything, because I can't open a checking account.
You can get money orders. You don't have to have a checking account, sir.
But I'm in a domestic relationship partner, Your Honor.
No,
I
you
just
weren't.
give him the cash.
No, you weren't, sir. At the time that we're talking about, this domestic partnership had terminated and we were in a situation of a landlord and a tenant with regard to certain bills.
No, Your Honor, we weren't.
Well, you told me that.
He was still, at this time when this happened, we were still living in the same household, and he was still pretending to be my lover.
I don't understand.
Your Honor, I could witness that.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
They would come to my house in the desert as lovers. They would come to stay in my house in the desert.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have a new friend. Ask him for money. What are you calling
He's not a new friend.
No.
I've known him for 10 years.
Fine, ask him for money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old Wayne McNeil is suing his former lover, 29-year-old Jason Brickhouse, alleging when they broke up, Jason didn't pay his share of the rent. Jason claims he paid the money in cash.
There are a lot of things charged here. Gas, gasoline. Why does he have your American Express card?
He took it from
When?
me. I have no idea. He used my American Express card to pay for a public storage unit in January of last year. I have no idea
hold
how
on
he got
just a second. Sir, let me tell you why I have a problem with that. Because you have different dates here, but they're over a many-month period, so that when you saw the first bill for gas signed by him...
No, the gas and everything I did. I don't have a motor vehicle. He has a car, and because he never had any money, he was always asking me to put gas in his car because his job is during the weekends. He used to do deliveries for a messenger service, and he never had money to put gas in his car, so I would put gas in his car. And he always said that he would pay me back. This whole thing started...
No, that's nonsense. Come on. Let's talk about big things. Let's not talk about $11 for gas.
But it adds up.
Of course it adds up, sir, and if you didn't want to do it, you wouldn't have done it. And it went over a long enough period of time so that you could have said at any time, if these were loans, listen, you have to give me back the $11, the $4, the $14. Come on, let's get serious.
He was always saying, I would pay you when I get paid.
Let's
I
get
would pay
serious.
you when I get paid, and he never would.
Let's take care of the big things first. There is an agreement to pay $250 in rent over a 15-month period. I can't work these things.
$3,750, Judge.
And you say he paid you $2,000.
If that's what,
now,
yeah.
Did he pay you $2,000 in cash or check?
He paid me in cash.
Can I speak now?
Sure.
Your Honor, this whole relationship, I don't have receipts. I paid in cash. That's why I brought a witness in that will tell. That's what I do. I pay in cash.
I don't care if that's what your pattern is. He already said to you, you paid him in cash. He acknowledges that you paid him $2,000 in cash.
But
I don't care if that's what this witness is going to tell me.
He is lying.
Your witness is going to say that you pay all your bills by cash.
Right. Well, that they were also in a relationship together.
Yeah.
It wasn't just roommates.
Listen to me. Just answer the questions that I posed to you.
Okay, Your Honor, this went on for a long period of time. I have a restraining order against Mr. McNeil. On June 22nd of this year, Mr. McNeil started pounding on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning drunk. I threatened to call the police and have him thrown in jail. This case was filed on June 23rd. It's nothing more than harassment and retaliation because I don't want anything to do with them. That's all it is.
Go ahead, Mr. McNeil.
Okay. The whole reason that this case is here today is because on June 13, Jason called me and said, can you give me $20? I have no food in the house. I said, no, I'm not going to give you $20, Jason. He said, I'll pay you back on Monday when I get paid. I said, I still can't give you the money. So I left to go out with some friends, and I went upstairs and I gave him $5. When I got home that night, I called him up and I left a message on his machine. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and admittedly it was a little sarcastic. It was to the fact that, you know, you're obviously out drinking the $5 that I gave you, because he had also been sick all week during the week with stomach problems and things. So that was it. On Monday night, I went upstairs. He goes to a domestic violence class on Monday nights, which I've paid for the last 3 months, $40 every time when he hasn't got the $40 to pay for it. And knocked on his door. He comes to the door. He'd also been drinking. He said, I'm not very pleased with you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you leave nasty messages on my answering machine. I know I owe you money. I'll put it in an envelope and leave it under your door.
And I did. I left $65 in an envelope under his door after I got paid.
No,
and
you
I
did
said,
not.
from this point on, leave me alone.
No.
Just get out of my life and leave me alone.
Was there any money left under your door?
No, there was not.
Yes, there was.
There was not.
Sir, why are you still calling him for money?
I thought we could be friends, but obviously we couldn't.
You're a user.
No.
I want to tell you something. You're a user. Because if you're not together anymore and you have a new friend...
You want to ask him why he... Sorry.
You have a new friend. Ask him for money. What are you calling him?
He's not a new friend.
No.
I've known him for 10 years. We are just roommates.
Fine. Ask him for money.
He won't pay him.
Why?
He won't lend him money. Sorry.
You're a user because
I
you
disagree
called
with
him.
you, Your Honor.
Well,
He
you may
used
disagree
me.
with me, but since I'm the judge, I get the last word.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Whatever she did was an accident if she transgressed on your rights as a pedestrian. What you did was a purposeful act of vandalism.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
There are certain things that I find were agreements between the two of you, and that was that when he moved back in, he was supposed to pay rent. Rent was $250 a month. I believe you when you say that he paid $2,000 of that $3,750 amount that he was supposed to pay. So I have $1,750 left that he owes you. I also want to ask you one question, just you. Did he pay you back this $550 that he wrote in forged checks?
No, he didn't.
I believe that too, that he did not pay you back. So I'm adding that. That's $2,300. Do you understand? That's what I'm giving you.
Okay.
Don't give him any more money.
Don't worry, I'm not.
Good. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. That's all.
Pardon are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Out the back door to your right, please.
When he's been drinking, he gets violent, and
I don't know where this is coming from, but this is ridiculous.
Excuse me, Michael.
And now the next case.
Party's on. Kirk versus Schwartz. Step forward, please.
Danielle Kirk says bookkeeper Ronit Schwartz banged her car with a bag of groceries. Ronit says she only touched the car as Danielle drove recklessly through the parking lot.
Ms. Kirk, you allege in your papers that the defendant damaged your car when she hit it intentionally with a bag of groceries.
That is correct.
Want to tell me where you were and how this happened, please?
On July the 9th, I was backing out of a parking spot at the Pavilions shopping center, and I was 2/3 of the way out of the lot when I noticed
Out
that
of the lot or out of the...
out of a parking space, when I noticed that the defendant had stepped behind my car with a small child. So I stopped and let her proceed behind my car, and as she crossed in front of my car to get to her car, she stopped and started yelling obscenities and whatnot. So I just looked at her. I didn't say anything. I made no gestures to her. She finished crossing in front of my car and started walking towards her car, and I turned my car and proceeded to try and exit the lot. When the car behind me honked, she turned and swung a bag of groceries and hit the side of my car.
The car behind you?
Was honking at me to leave, but I couldn't leave because she was standing in front of my car. So as I went to leave, she turned and swung and hit my car.
All right, let me try to understand this. There were rows of parked cars.
Correct.
You're backing out of the spot.
Yes.
The defendant and her child were walking and were behind your car, so you stopped.
Yes.
Then you say she came around to the front of your car.
Yes, she was crossing in front of my car to get to her car.
So then you finished pulling out, so your car was backed out.
Correct.
And sort of with the nose heading towards the exit.
Right.
And she was at this point in front of your car.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't move.
Right.
And then a car behind you that was also trying to exit, you said?
They wanted my spot. They wanted to pull into the spot that I was leaving out of.
Okay, so they honked.
Right.
And then she swung a bag of groceries.
And she turned and swung and hit the side of my car.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
What did it sound like?
It was a loud thump. There was something heavy in her bags.
Okay. Did you get out and look at the car at that time?
Yes, I did.
And what did you see?
I saw a dent behind the passenger side door where the door opens, and I showed it to her.
Okay. And you got out, and then what happened?
I asked her why she did it. She admitted that she did it. At first, she said she swung a bag of groceries. Then she said she hit her hand on my car. Then she changed the story the third time and said it was just a box of cereal. But
did she say why she did it?
No, she did not.
You have an estimate for the damage?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Schwartz, you want to tell me your version of these events, please?
Yes. I was walking with my daughter on, there were two lanes of cars with their backs to us on the left side of the lane. I was walking and her car came out, we were there, and her car came out of the parking spot, and I grabbed my daughter and moved back. Then she started proceeding, not letting me go first. She started proceeding and I said, wait a minute, hold it, because we were there. Then she made kind of motions that we could walk in front of her car, and we started walking in front of her car, and she proceeded to go. It's like, you know, she didn't really give us enough time. Then she passed us, and I was behind the car already, and I turned around with, my 8-year-old had 2 bags, and I had 2 bags, and I turned around to yell something because I was angry. And then all of a sudden she pulled over, she blocked my car where I was, and then she started saying, "You hit my car, you deliberately hit my car."
Well, you did hit her car with your groceries.
Not intentionally.
No, Mrs.
Absolutely.
Schwartz, that's not true.
Yes, it is true.
No.
Yes, it is
You were
true.
no, Mrs. Schwartz. You were angry, and you hit her car with the groceries. There's no
I did not deliberately hit her
sure
car
you
with
did.
my groceries. I turned her car around. Her car was already past me. I had my daughter's. I had 2 bags of groceries. She had 2 bags of groceries, plus I was holding her hand. Because on 3 separate times she wouldn't let us.
In order to cause a dent in the car of over $400, you had to accidentally whip around.
that I didn't cause
Not,
that
madam,
dent.
just turn around so that the bag of groceries taps it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand you perfectly.
I understand what you're saying, but I never was near the passenger side of her car. I was behind it when she had already stopped, and I never deliberately attacked her with my groceries.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mrs. Schwartz, judges are only human beings. We don't deal with computers, so you have to rely on what is common sense and our own human experience. And having driven myself in parking lots, been a pedestrian on the street, I can't tell you that, especially when I'm in New York City, how many taxi cabs I would like to hit with a heavy object. You remember those days?
Oh, Judge, I know.
Right? Because you feel as if people are being inconsiderate, people are not being careful enough behind the wheel, and you want to be able to respond to it. Mrs. Schwartz, you lost your temper. You owe her $432.69. Whatever she did was an accident if she transgressed on your rights as a pedestrian. What you did was a purposeful act of vandalism that's going to cost you $432. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
It's a beautiful day out there. We can expect some good action today. The pitch looks green. It's time for the toss. The men who matter are out here. Let's see. Heads is the call. And we have got heads. The toss winners will bat first. They'll want to catch the ball. The captain is leading his team into the field, with both sides equally strong. The medium pacer has been called into the attack now. It's a long, long way to Tipperary, and that stunning 6. Looks like he's sending a message to the bowler. First ball boundary. That was spotted so quickly by the fielder. What a great effort in the field. Driven straight to the point fielder on the offside, but no runs added. The batsman has driven it to perfection. Good effort from the fielding unit. He gets in a sharp throw. Extra runs. He dives wildly back to the crease. Is he out? The bowler goes up with excitement, but no, says the umpire in the end. He's playing it safe by sticking to just the one. Did he make it in time? The umpire says he did. Safe. It doesn't seem to be timed well. The batsman might be in trouble here. He has to push to stay on. The medium pacer has been called into the attack now. He flicks it away onto the onside this time for more runs. He has to run hard on this one to be safe. The fielder sees eye to eye with the bowler and flings it true. Poor running between the wickets. An acrobatic dive prevents the extra run. The bowler smiles in relief. The shouts are loud. The umpire isn't. No wicket here. He's down on one knee, proposing to go for the boundary. The umpire knows what the batsman doesn't. Not out. A good effort from the fielding unit. They need to keep this momentum going forward. The batsman was miles behind the crease. Great stuff from the bowler. That's a